Well, spring practice and all that is coming to an end. Everything is complete besides the spring game that is coming up this Saturday. And let's go to break down what we've seen these last couple weeks during the spring. Who's stuck out? How's the offense doing? How's the defense looking? What kind of quarterback play we're going to get, as we know that's going to be very important. Also, who I feel will start in the spring game, and when I mean start with the number ones. And you'll probably be surprised with that pick, but I think this is what Rule will do, even though all three will get to play. I also will go over the draft that's coming up, what Huskers could get drafted. Are they getting drafted? The portal, are we losing anyone? Are we picking anyone up? Also, I'm going to, at the end, tell you my top 5 newbies that will impact this year in 2024, this season. The new players coming in, the transfers, the rookies, or I should say the freshmen. But there's probably more than 5 that I feel is going to make a big impact in the 2024 season that are just coming in. A couple of the transfers, some of the transfers are going to make a big impact, but we're going to have a couple of freshmen that's going to make a big impact. So I'm going to go over them. Also going to go over some recruiting news. We've got a big recruiting weekend this weekend, and also the communication. There's a helmet communication this year that's starting this year. Finally, the college football is getting on board with this, that the NFL is doing. We'll kind of go over that, and we'll bundle it all together. So let's get started.
Comes the pressure. He gets away from Holmes, finds his way to the outside. McLaughlin turns him around. He sets and throws, and this ball is caught.
In Rule's second year, he definitely wants to see some more consistency. He wants to see some big improvement in all phases, not just the offense, including the defense. The defense was really good last year, but I don't think it wasn't perfect. Let us down in time of needs. A game I could probably point out that's big time is the Wisconsin game. The defense didn't seem to be able to get Wisconsin off the field. I don't know how many third down plays they made, but as good as they were last year, there was a lot of room for improvement. Spring practice, the running has been kind of off and on this year. It's kind of been hit and miss, but what he's looking for, but he's also reminding us that it's going against our defense, that flashes a unique assortment of looks and pressures. That's what he said. And you got to remember, our defense was one of the best last year. Also likes the depth that we're developing behind the offensive line. He's got a lot of the players that's reached a certain plateau of playing time that gets set at, and he's doing this more because these players have already had a bunch of snaps, live snaps in games. So now he's trying to get some of these young guys ready. You will not probably see this, and I'm real sure you won't see this come summer when the fall camp comes in. Then you're going to see the starters back in there. This is more during the spring, and that means these young guys got a lot of reps during the spring. He mentioned a couple of names when he was bringing these out. One of the names that really jumped out was Gunnar Gutula. I hope I ain't mispronouncing that name. He's a redshirt freshman here from Lincoln Southeast. Another name he's brought up is Sam Sledge, another redshirt freshman, and another player from Nebraska. Also, another one getting a lot of reps at a couple positions, as that's the starting center, which he was the backup center last year, was sophomore Justin Evans Jenkins. He's been, since Ben Scott's got one of those players that's got enough playing time, enough snaps, he's been sitting out. So Justin Evans Jenkins has been going as the number 1 guy, and often he tolls with Sam Sledge as the number 2 guy. So that's a good thing, because right now the only one we really got is Ben Scott with Justin Evans Jenkins as his backup. But this kind of gives a mixture and some depth in a needed position. But Gunnar Gutula, who's 6'5", 295 pounds, has got most of his work at tackle. Offensive line coach Donovan Raiola gives Justin Evans Jenkins great reviews. He talks about his toughness and his willingness to do whatever he asked them to do, which is a great sign. Coach Raiola has the pleasure of having a veteran line this year, so I think you're going to see a vast improvement. But I ain't going to get my hopes up until I see it in game situation. I don't know how much we're going to be able to see during the spring game. But the good thing about Coach Raiola, he does have the added of having a very veteran line starting this year. And then if he gets some of these backups, because he's got a big job this year, because make no mistake, he's got to protect the quarterback, and that quarterback could easily be his nephew. But if they could give these young quarterbacks time, I think we'll be okay in that position. We're going to have to be able to give protection, especially against a four-man front, or even picking up. But when they were able to get pressure, only rushing four, you're asking the quarterback to almost the impossible to not only find a receiver and get rid of the ball quickly, but against a secondary with that's dropping back 7. Now, even though we do have a veteran offensive line, there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made from last year. Mainly to the point we only averaged scoring 18 points a game last year. But a lot of that wasn't just the offensive line. Quarterback was probably the biggest issue. Turnovers, losing some top receivers at the beginning of the year. We had our top 4 receivers gone. Then we had our top 2 running backs gone. To be fair, we were kind of handicapped. But other teams lose players too, and we got to figure a way of making it work. Hear other teams kind of making excuses because of that. Injuries are going to happen. I do think the consistency is going to get much better. Rules stated even after the last scrimmage last week, that he saw a lot more consistency this time around, especially in the offense. He raved about how well the offense did in that game, but he did caution, to be fair, he's not letting them tackle. He's not letting them going in there and hitting them. So a lot of plays might have got extended, but overall he was pretty impressed how the offense had played. The key will be what our offense does. I think our defense is going to be really good. Our defense was good last year. We got a lot of veterans coming back. We got a lot of key newbies coming in that's going to make a big impact. So I think you're going to see a big improvement. What does the offense? The key is going to, how much does the offense improve? Did we cut down on them turnovers? Even Rule, as stated, if we could protect the quarterback, whoever the passer is, we could protect him and get a steady run game going. Maybe with Gabe Irvin back, Ramir Johnson. Now they're not practicing right now. They're not playing. You won't see them in the spring game. You probably see a lot of Emmett Johnson, Ives. You probably see, and probably Dante Dow, the newcomer coming in. You're going to see a lot of them. If we could get some steady run game with all these guys and be able to protect the quarterback, man, we only needed 3 points in all these losses. Most of these losses, we only 3 points here, 3 points there, and this 5-7 team could easily have been 8, 9, maybe even a 10 win season with losing only to Michigan. Colorado, I know, got out of hand, but going into the fourth quarter, this was a tight game. Again, the offense was just kept putting them in bad spots, and then at the end, I think probably wore down the. You got to remember, they were playing in Colorado up at Mile High, and I think the defense got wore out and got out of hand at the end. So that could have easily went a different way. Guess we'll find out early this year. We actually get Colorado again in the second game, but this time it's in Lincoln. A lot better. If we could get some better protection and we can keep from turning the ball over, that's the biggest thing. You're not going to win turning the ball over. Honestly, I'm surprised we lost all these games by such a small margin, and that, again, you have to give the defense credit with the turnover problems we had, and it wasn't even close. But then again, was these offenses we playing really that bad? Because you look at the 2 offenses that really did look good, Colorado and Michigan, the defense ended up giving up points. Now, some others that are working in the offensive line, because even Bryce Benhart was sitting out because he's kind of like Scott has them snaps, has enough to sit out. So we got to see a lot from some younger guys. Offensive lineman we need to develop. Junior strongman Henry Luteski, I believe that's how you pronounce it. He's got 4 starts. He's been working both at guard and tackle, while Teddy, he's been consistently working at left tackle. Remember, that was his original position. He got his most playing time last year. The other years he kept going down and going out. While Teddy Prokowski has been playing left tackle, which is really his position he started off with. And if he could stay healthy and get back into that, you're going to see some consistent play on the left side. And then you got senior Turner Cochran. He's been slowed right now because of injury. But again, like I said, you got a lot of veterans on this offensive line, and you got some good depth. So it shows that Coach Raiola has plenty of help, plenty of motivation to make this work. He's got his veterans, he's got some solid backups, he's got some solid players that came in. So he ought to be able to mix and match and get a unit that will at least be consistent. And honestly, playing together is consistent. You got a line now that's been together for a while. You got a few pieces to put in, but even Ben Scott got here last year. So you're going to have a group that should know each other pretty well. And so I feel like this is going to, the offensive line might be one of the strengths. And if it is, you might be surprised how well the offense moves. Now, Gabe Urban and Ramir Johnson, they still recovering from injury, so you won't see them probably until fall camp. So Emmett Johnson's getting a lot of the reps. And Rule said he showed some, just like he did for us last year, showing great explosiveness, and he'll probably see a lot of action with the first teamers. Remember, Emmett Johnson was a true freshman last year, so he's going to be a sophomore. He's going to see a lot of action. And the one thing about Emmett, he's just consistent. He knows how to block out of the backfield. He knows how to catch out of the backfield and depth, and he knows how to run in between the tackles and in the outside. He's just a good all-around back. And don't be surprised if he doesn't merge into the number 1 back this year. You're still going to see a mixture of the other guys, Gabe Urban, Ramir Johnson, because them are a different style running. Even Dante Dow that came in. But to me, Emmett proved to me himself last year, and he's only going to get better. And with him able to block pass rushers, catch out of the backfield, that's what Rule's looking for. So I got a feeling you're going to see a lot of Emmett Johnson. You're going to see everybody, but don't be surprised if Emmett Johnson doesn't end up being your starter come the season. Now, Emmett Johnson, he's only about 5'11", 190 pounds out of Minneapolis, but he runs like he weighs 210, 215. He'll put his head down, bowl you over, and then if he has to, he'll run around you. Like I said, he's one of those backs that just seems to have it down. And this is what Rule's looking for. You might have other backs that have the running down, might have running between the tackles down, but maybe they're not getting that blocking out in the backfield down. So I feel like Emmett Johnson is going to be the main one, but there's a lot of time between now and the beginning of the season. And what's holding back Gabe Urban and Ramir is they're still battling injury, so they're not even going to come back. Remember, they missed almost the whole season. Most of the season last year. So when they come back in the summer and in the fall camp, they're going to have get back in the swing of things. By then, Emmett's going to probably have it. I just got a feeling he's going to be the one to have this. But you're going to get a lot of play from Gabe Urban and Ramir as well. Let's talk about the receiving room. The wide receiver room is interesting because if you remember, sophomore Janarian Bonner, who played the fullback position last year, he's actually moved back. Remember, he came from the receiver side. He actually has moved back to wide receiver, and he's done decent. You haven't heard his name a whole lot, but he's just getting back in it. And he's a big receiver. He's like 6'2", 220 pounds. I mean, he fits the Big Ten perfectly, and this is what you want. If you think about it, if he could get this down, get the playbook down, and then you have Nair, and then you got Banks, and then you got Bonner. These guys are 6'3", 6'2", big 215, 220 pounds. And if you could put these three guys out there, mainly a mismatch, then you put Jalen Lloyd in the slot with the speedster, or Malachi Coleman, who's a big guy himself but got great speed. I think, and then we could protect that quarterback. You're probably going to see receiver could be one of the bright spots this year, where last year we couldn't say that. Now, one freshman we're hearing a lot about in the receiving group, and the coaches have talked about, is Ja'Cory Barney. The freshman Ja'Cory Barney seems like he's sticking out and is going to earn a lot of playing time this year. Another one that's sticking out is redshirt freshman Demetrius Bell. Both have stepped up big time in the spring, and we're going to probably hear their names a lot come the fall. You're probably, remember, Rule likes rotating guys. One that gives these guys reps in live games reps, keeps everybody fresh, keeps the defense on their toes, because they all bring a different kind of style, different kind of talent. And so if he could get these guys playing like this and they continue to play like this, Rule's going to have something he didn't have last year because we lost him 4 guys. He's going to have some good depth in the wide receiver position. And with them young guys getting the playing time they did last year because of what happened, Malachi Coleman, he's been banged up. He'll be back in the summer. And then Jalen Lloyd, he's come along and improved. With them guys getting the time they did last year, you're going to see some big improvement in the wide receivers. Defensive side, the question is who's going to play that corner spot. We got Tommy Hill on one side. Now Hartzog, I heard, has moved to safety. He's done well at safety. They feel like he's a better fit for safety. So who's going to be that other corner? The name I'm hearing is another newbie, another new guy, and that's Bly Hills. And if you remember, probably the one guy you didn't really hear a whole lot about when he came in. But he's only a sophomore, and right now it could be the Hill brothers. And yes, I know they're not really brothers, but just got a nice ring. The 2 Hill brothers coming in, locking down the corners, because Bly Hill, we just heard the coaches raving about, and he's only a sophomore, so he's got a couple years with him. So if he's playing like he is, and he continues to develop like he is into the summer, I think you're going to see some solid play there. Some more that's going to probably you're going to hear a lot about when it comes to the new guys, mainly in the defense, is Buford's brother, Mario. He seems to be coming along, and he's probably going to get a lot of playing time this year. I don't know if he's going to get enough to make a big impact, but you never know. And another position that we've heard the coaches rave about is Chief Borders at linebacker. I think every time you turn around, it was talked about that Chief is just got it now. I think he understands now what he needs to do. He's just making play after play after play. And that's what we've been hearing even about Bly Hill, that even when it comes to one-on situations, Bly Hill's been making that play. And then we've been hearing that from Coach Rule and the other coaches about Chief Borders. The way Rule's talked, it sounds like he's made the most improvement from last season than almost anybody. Rule don't like really picking one person out. He don't really like it, but he gives praise where praise is due. So when Rule comes back and said, hey, Chief Borders is probably the most improved player, that to me is telling me something. That's saying a lot, because it takes a lot. You have to do a lot before Rule will go on his press conference and actually state that. And defensively, that has to be impressive, because defensively we did pretty well last year. Defense was one of the improvements we had last year. You come in here and tell me, just like he said, hey, the offense looked really good last scrimmage, man. That was the best we've seen. That's good, and I'm glad to hear it. But considering what we saw last year, I don't know. That doesn't take a lot to make an improvement. I don't know. You and I might be able to go there and look at improvement. Okay, maybe not. But when you tell me that about the defensive player, when you tell me that Chief Borders is one of the most improved players, that tells me a lot about it. So I'm excited to see what he does. But for the defense to really take a step up from last year, to really improve from what they did last year, they got to do a couple things. One, they got to be more consistent on their 4-man pass rush. They got to be able to get that pressure with just 4 men. They also got to be more consistent on third down, getting them off the field. How many times you'd get them in 3rd and long, and then for some reason they would be able to pull it out. The offense would pull it out. So we have to get more consistency on 3rd downs, getting that other team off the field. We got to be able to get that pass rush with a 4-man pass rush, 5 at the most, but you definitely need it with a 4-man. If you could get a pass rush with 4 guys, you're going to dominate a game. And then another key is takeaways. We got to be able to figure out a way to take away the ball. Yeah, we gave away the ball a lot, 31 times, but we didn't have hardly any takeaways. We got to have more takeaways. Let's for once go into a season and then at the end of the season be in the plus side of the turnover margin. I'm telling you right now, if we can be in the plus, now remember, I'm saying we have to have a positive of the turnover ratio, means we took the ball away more than we gave the ball away. I am saying, I predict if we could do that, you're looking at least a 9 or 10 win team. You call me crazy all you want, but that's a key. If we're in the positive, I believe you're looking at a good 9 or 10 wins this year. Not saying that's what's going to happen. Just like last year, I said it depends on the turnovers and the penalties. Penalties, we didn't do so bad, but turnovers, not only we did bad, we did worse than we've been doing. So let's clean that up. Clean up the turnovers, get some takeaways, and to me, that's the 3 keys for this defense this year. Consistency of getting the other team off the field on 3rd downs, getting a better pass rush with a 4-man front, and takeaways. Them are the 3 they need to work on. Rule even stated in his press conference that takeaways it has to be better. He even stated it needs to be more consistent. We can't have 4 or 5 takeaways, even though we take it. We need consistency. Now, don't get me wrong, I would take that many turnovers in a game. Consistent takeaways in each game, it's going to make a big difference. If defense could do that, this is a top 5 defense. I think it's going to be a top 10 defense for sure this year. You're hearing it from me right now. This is a top 10, and I don't think I'm making it a stretch, but this is probably the top 10 defense in the nation. And if they could get the takeaways, they get them 3 keys down, they could be definitely number 1. I think they could be the best defense in the Big Ten. And the Big Ten is going to have 2 or 3 already that are going to be in the top of the nation. Now let's get into the quarterback play. Rule hasn't given too much into the quarterbacks. He's saying all 3 are doing well. But from my reports and from what I've seen, Dylan Raiola has looked good. He's looked like we thought he would do it. You could always tell he's not playing like a freshman. You got to think some of the biggest high schools throughout the country, Texas, Arizona, Georgia. He's went to a lot of professional camps. He's had a lot of coaching, went to a lot of coaching camps, had a lot of quarterback coaching camps, more than the typical high school quarterback. So he's probably way ahead, to me, way ahead than what you would typically see a freshman quarterback. That's what's giving him the leg up. On top of that, he's got one of the best arms you're going to see. But because of that, I'm not counting anyone else out. Rule has stated that, he's kept things pretty even keel and locked down about practice. And he even talked about all 3 did well, even in the scrimmage. And then he talked about that all 3 quarterbacks looked really good. Now, again, think about it. The defense is not tackling. They're not hitting. So how much is that because they can't do that? How much of that is just talk? Is that just talk to boost up the quarterbacks, to not give a favor to one, thinking, oh, he's leaning this guy, because he doesn't want to get it. He's telling any of them. It could be any 3. And I'm going to tell you right now, to me, I've said it already before in another video, this is Harburg's to lose. And you guys can laugh all you want, but Harburg, this is his team. This is his, and if he makes the improvement, to me, you're probably going to see him as the starter come the first year. But don't get me wrong, I think by no matter what, Dylan Raiola and Daniel Kalen, I think all 3 are going to get some playing time this year. I got a feeling Dylan Raiola probably will end up taking over. And don't get me wrong, he could end up starting at the beginning of the year. Rule's talked about how much he's improved in his passing. He's definitely the better runner. He's more of a threat if he's got that passing down, and now he's got receivers. I'm going to also give him a break. Who was his receivers? Who was his running backs? The main thing we had was Harbor. If the running back and the run game could be steady, running back stay healthy, you got Gabe Ervin, you got Ramir Johnson, you got Emmett Johnson playing well, then you got the new guy Dante coming in and playing. Then now you have Banks, Nair, Jalen Lloyd's looking good, Ja'Cory Barney's looking good. The tight ends. You got to remember, last year was Fadoni's first year. He hurt the other years. He got that year under the belt. So this is almost like him coming from his freshman to his sophomore year. Same with Harbor. He got starts last year. It's almost like him going to his sophomore year. Where do you make your biggest improvement? From your freshman to sophomore year, from the first year to the second year. So laugh all you want. You're going to see big improvements from Harburg, and you're going to see big improvements from Thomas Fadoni. I really thought Thomas Fadoni would have had a breakout year last year, and he had a great year. But again, they didn't have the receivers that we thought we'd have. We didn't have the quarterback play we thought we'd have. I got a feeling you're going to see Fadoni stick out. I think this is going to be a lot better offense than you guys really think. Not saying it's going to be number one. Not going to say it's going to lead with 40 points a game. And honestly, you're right. It doesn't take much to be better than you were last year. But a little bit better is all we needed to go to a bowl last year. So I think you're going to see a lot of improvement. Daniel Kalen out. I've seen him look just as good. I really believe if you looked at all three, and I know Rule won't say it, but if you looked at all three, probably if you had to take a judgment and say you were starting a game, this Saturday was a game that counted and you were starting and you had to pick one, Dylan Raiola probably would be my starter. He's probably looked the best. He like I said, you could tell he knows how to improvise. He seems to improvise better. When the pocket collapses, he seems to be able to find the receiver better. And I think that's who would probably get the edge. But the others are not that far. Even Harburg is not that far. And Harburg has made a lot of improvement, even in his passing. He brings the threat of running. So that keeps the defense. That's why I think you're going to see him. I think you're going to see Harburg on the field. Even if you got Raiola starting, you're probably going to see Harburg on the field. So wouldn't be surprised there's going to be some packages where he's in there as either a wide receiver or another tight end. Might see a pass out of him where Raiola gets him the ball and he passes the ball. Because when he's in the game, then the defense has to think run. When you have Daniel Kalen in the game, Raiola in the game, they don't have to think that. So right now it's anyone's game, but I'm telling you right now, Daniel Kalen, one thing he's got, he does have a very accurate arm. He's very football smart. I've said that before. Y'all have heard my videos, so don't count him out. Doesn't mean he can't play. And these guys are just making each other better. I think these two new guys are even making Harburg better. But I think if you get to the end, it's going to come down to turnovers. If in these practices, especially in the summer and going into fall camp, if you've got the ball, you've been turning the ball over in camp, you're probably not going to be one starting. I feel like if it's all even, they're not turning the ball over, I believe Harburg starts that first game because he was the starter last year. But then you're going to see the others. I think the others are going to get playing time. In other words, Rule's going to ease them in. And of course, the first 3 games is probably the games to ease them in. So let's see how the summer goes. I feel like when it comes to the spring game, like I said before, I wanted to talk about who I felt like would start the spring game against the number ones. I kind of give it a hint when I talked about the quarterbacks. I feel like Rule is probably going to give the number ones to Heinrich Harburg, and Raiola and Daniel Kalen's going to be playing with the twos, probably coming in and mixing up them with the ones. But I think at the beginning you're probably going to see Harburg with the ones, maybe Raiola with the twos, then you're probably going to see Raiola with the ones, Daniel Kalen with the twos. I think you're going to see a mixture, but I think Harburg will probably start the ones. That's just my gut feeling, my prediction, just listening to Rule, listening to what he's talked about when someone has been a starter already and then a freshman coming in. But don't get me wrong, the others will end up playing, but I feel like that's probably what's going to happen. They might have 3 units and then 3 units, but to do 3 units, you're probably going to have the same offensive line, and that's going to be a lot. Now, the draft is this weekend, and I want to see, who do we think, could Nebraska have some players that goes into the draft? I think they could have 3 players. There's 3 players I feel like that could make the draft. They could make late in the draft. Right now it doesn't look good. Nobody was invited to the NFL Combine, so it doesn't look good right now, but you could easily see either cornerback Quentin Newsome. I think he has a chance to go late. I think Luke Reimer, the linebacker Luke Reimer, and safety Omar Brown. These 3, I feel like 1, 2 of them, or even all 3 could go late, but I got a feeling one of these guys will go late. You'll probably have at least one. And I think after this draft, kind of starting next year, you're going to probably see more consistency with Nebraska in the draft. I think you're going to see more development with Rule. You're going to see better play. I did find out that the Colorado game, that's the second game of the year, that game's probably going to be most likely a CBS game, because it won't be a Fox game. Fox has announced that they're picking up the Texas-Michigan game that weekend, and that's the same weekend that Nebraska plays Colorado. So I could see Nebraska being on CBS either at the 2:30 game or the 6:30 game on NBC. They could be that. And if I had to pick one, I'd want the 6:30 game. If you guys have not went to a home game, a night home game at 6:30, I went to one, and mainly that Redout. I'm telling you, it's a different feel and a different game than at 11 o'clock in the morning or 2:30 to all 3. And that 6:30 game, man, is wild. You got to go to that one. I'm telling you, ever get a chance, go to a 6:30 night game in Memorial Stadium, and especially in that Redout. That stadium's rocking. And I'm sitting there watching this going, man, this is rocking. And when's the last time we had a winning team? But what kind of support are they going to get when they win? And I heard the spring game. Now, the spring game I heard is going to be beautiful. I heard it's going to be close to 80 degrees. So if you're going to the spring game. Now, also, this weekend is going to be a big recruiting weekend, official recruiting weekend, when Nebraska's got, I know, at least 9 high-profile players coming in. So it's going to be a big weekend. So we can fill that stadium and show these players this is what Nebraska's about, because the fans are probably the number one facilities. The fans, the city is the number one reason we get these players that come to Lincoln. And so we got to hold up our part. Now, as you know, the transfer portal opened up about a week ago, I believe it was. Might have been about 2 weeks ago. I know, about 2 weeks now. But it ends next week. It ends on May 1st, which is not long after the spring game. And Rule doesn't really expect a whole lot. And if you saw his press conference, he made a good point. Why would you want to go somewhere else? People, if they've only been to Nebraska, if they've only been here, they don't realize that the media coverage and the fan support's not the same, especially even on the off season, as other schools. So a lot of them will get into this, oh, I'm not planning to go somewhere, and what happens, they get promised something, because you get these coaches that reach out to them that they shouldn't be allowed to do. I know they're not allowed to, but they let them get away with it and promise them things. Then they get over there and they're a backup anyway, and then they don't get the coverage. Nebraska's the only one that were, during the off season, during the spring, during this time right now, that they get players to interview for the media. You don't get that anywhere else. I mean, NIL is about your brand, about making a name to yourself, to make the money you can. That's what the NIL means. And you probably can't do it better than you can do it in Nebraska. So Rule made a good point. Why would they want to go somewhere else? He goes, he's going to support whoever if they want to go, but he doesn't expect a lot of players to leave. He wouldn't be surprised if nobody leaves. And honestly, I feel that same way. I feel like nobody's going to leave. If someone does leave, it's probably going to be someone that you didn't know about. A good point about why would they want to leave, and I think when he was saying it in the press conference, because one thing I noticed about Rule, he likes talking to the players through the media. So in his press conference, I think he's talking to his players, and he made a great point. I wish they could go and see what the others look like first, or go talk to some of them that left and realize, ooh, guarantee you Purdy's not making a name for himself like he could have here, because Purdy would have had a chance if he would have stayed, and he decided to move on. I don't expect a lot in the transfer portal. Matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if you don't see anybody at all. And I don't expect Nebraska to go get someone. I know they're looking at a few. If it's the right player, you always want to take a big man. Could be a defensive lineman, linebacker could be another one, or even a corner. And I know you're thinking, well, we got plenty of corners. When we run the defense we run, you can never have enough corners. So I could see us getting one, but I don't expect a whole lot. Another thing new this year is the communication, the helmet communication. The rule kind of talked about that this year they're going to start where they're able to have one player on each side, on defense and on offense. They'll have a green label on their helmet, and they're the ones that can communicate with the sideline, with the coaches, and they're able to communicate all the way up to 15 seconds remaining. And so you're going to see a lot of chess play here, because that's where you're going to see teams probably wait, or defenses are going to wait until the 15-second mark, and then they're going to go into the defense. So the offensive coaches are going to kind of have to do it off their personnel. That's going to give Nebraska an edge, because Nebraska runs that defense they run no matter what. When you run the 3-3-5, Nebraska runs that 3-3-5, and they rotate players so much anyway, but they're still running the 3-3-5. They don't mix it up. Running that 3-3-5, the offense ain't going to know by the personnel that they have in there. But a lot of these defenses, or a lot of these offenses, are going to have to judge it by the defensive personnel are in there, because you're going to see these defenses wait until 15 seconds and then you'll go in. Now, problem is, if the offense could run out there, and you're probably going to see that a lot, where the offenses line up and they call the play in the helmet while they're at the line, because they're going to have to line up, and then the defense can't really wait. They're going to have to line up. You can't take the chance of them snapping the ball, and you got a wide receiver over here with no one covering him. So it's going to be a lot of chess play. It's going to be interesting, but I think I'm glad to see that they finally got the helmet communication, and that way get rid of them big old signs and trying to communicate. I just think that's ridiculous. Now, I wanted to tell you who I feel like will be my top 5 newbies that will make an impact in 2024, and I only nailed it down to 5. I think you could see a lot of them, and a lot of them you might already know. My first one, I feel like is going to make a big impact this year, is cornerback Bly Hill. Talked about him earlier. He's 6'3", 190 pounds. I think he'll stick out at corner. He's already tearing it up at spring, making big plays. I think he's going to have a big impact, be one of the new impact players. My next one is linebacker freshman Vincent Shavers, 6 foot, 205 pounds. Has been talked about amongst the coaches, and I'm telling you, Rule doesn't like talking especially about a freshman, and he's bragged about this player already in his conferences. It seems like he's tearing it up. He seems like he understands it. He's got a lot of energy and has a knack for the ball. So I feel like you're going to hear Vincent Shavers' name. He's going to be a big impact this year, one of the newbie impacts for this year. The next one's on the offensive side, which is going to be, it's not probably going to surprise you, is wide receiver Isaiah Nair. 6'3", 200 pounds. That's a big body receiver that can make big plays. And the other one is the other transfer that's coming in, wide receiver Jamal Banks, 6'3", 210 pounds. He's a big physical receiver. These two players are kind of similar, but they're different. Banks seems to do better in a jam. You jam him up at the line, he's able to, you go get him. He's the 50-50. He's the red zone big guy you want to go to, and when he gets jammed up in the line, I think he does a lot better than when you leave him wide open. It sounds a little weird, but both of these guys are big body receivers, but I feel like Banks is going to be the one you're going to see mainly in the red zone, but you're going to see these two players be having big impact in the 2024 season. 2 newbies that's coming in. Now obviously for them to have a big impact means my fifth newbie that will have an impact this year, a newbie coming in, is going to be the quarterback position. And odds are they're going to be a newbie, because you got a 66.66% chance it's going to be one of the freshmen. But I feel like it's going to be Dylan Raiola. Dylan Raiola, who is 6'3", 230 pounds. He's a grown man as a freshman. A big quarterback, physical quarterback. He's not going to be easy to take down, be able to take the punishment. He's already looks like a man amongst boys out there, and he's just a true freshman. But his development already over a normal, he's probably more developed as a freshman coming in than probably a sophomore college player already from what he's been able to get out on his own that most freshmen don't get. And he's just going to get better and better. I just seen it. He seems to know where. What I like about it is when the line breaks down, the route breaks down, he seems to know where to go. He finds the back. He finds the second, the third option. He finds the man that's open. He buys time. That's what I've seen. And I've seen it from Daniel Kalen as well. Dylan Raiola's probably done it. No doubt he's done it a lot better. But I've seen it from Daniel, and I think Daniel, who hasn't had the development that Dylan Raiola has, so he's young in his development. And don't be surprised at the end of his career if he's not the best one out of the three. He's not the best one. And I'm not saying he's going to be, but don't be surprised if he doesn't end up being that, because his development's just started. Dylan's kind of ongoing. He's already had a lot of development, has a lot of things that a lot of the freshmen don't get, and he's going to get better. So I feel like he's going to be my 5th newbie impact player for 2024. Now, I did have a couple of honorable mentions. One of them was Keelan Smith. I feel like you could end up hearing his name. Ja'Cory Barney is another one that you could hear. And I actually threw Daniel Kalen in there. I think Daniel's going to get some playing time this year. I think he's going to get played both. The question is, will Rule shut him down after 4 games? Or if he is going to play 4 games, what 4 games is he going to play? If there isn't any injuries, which when's the last time we went through the season without having a quarterback injury? It's been a long time. But if we get through the season without the injuries, but if we don't, then Daniel could end up playing the whole year. If it develops the way you think it's going to develop, he'll probably only get 4 games. But don't be surprised you don't hear his name. Don't be surprised you don't. And if he's playing well, if he's that backup, you playing well, don't be surprised if you don't hear him. But they were honorable mentions, which them are my 5 newbie players that I feel like will be newbie impact players for 2024. Again, guys, thank you for joining. I appreciate you coming in here. And again, if you have not hit that subscribe button, please hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to join the Big Red Country Club, you can do it for as little as $1.99. But join the club, then I give away home tickets every year, give away Husker Memorabilia every year. And if you want to be part of that, join the Big Red Country Club. So hit the thanks button right here if you want to show support. I've had a few of you do that, and I want to thank every one of you that's done that. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Again, thank you for watching, and until the next video, guys, go Big Red.